In August of 1983, Randy Michaels and a group took over 700 WLW. I had done some legal work for Randy, as most lawyers in the tri-state have done over the years. So he got a hold of me and he said, look, I want to hire Alan Browning at 55 KRC to come and do 9 to midnight on 700 WLW, and you're his lawyer. So after this and that was done, we worked out a deal. And the deal was Alan Browning was going to start on Monday night like at 9 p.m. And he was on 55 KRC 8 to 12, 8 p.m. to midnight. So about 8:10, the phone's ringing off the hook at my home. And Randy is using every racial and every ethnic and every epithet that he could ever use, saying, what in the hell, why isn't Alan Browning, why is he still on 55? So he said, get your butt down there, you're on radio today at 9 o'clock tonight. And I said, look, I've never done a radio show by myself. He said, you can do it. So over the next 5 or 6 months, I was rather inartful in my radio talents. Lynn Gladhill was the woman that followed me, and she blew up one night, and Randy tells me during the day, calls me and says, look, I got this guy named the Bozo who's going to be the overnight trucking show. It's going to be fabulous. We're not going to do this weird stuff anymore. We're going to do truckers. I said, great. About 11:45, it's March or April of '84, Randy walks in the studios in 3 East 4th Street with the Truckin Bozo. And he walks in, we shake hands, and I said, my God, you look like an armpit with eyes. I said, this is... So the insults came back the other way, and we developed this act over the next 20 years where he would insult me as a shyster lawyer, and I would insult him as a toothless, illiterate, redneck, hillbilly trucker. And believe me, it was nothing but an act. After about a month or two, Randy said to me, look, if you're going to continue in radio, you have to connect with your audience like the Truckin Bozo connects with his. You have to have the humor of a Gary Burbank, hit the marks like a Jim Scott. And so from that, I began listening to the Truckin Bozo a lot more often than I did before, because I find myself working with radio giants of radio. Randy Michaels, who created radio the last 30 years, the most brilliant radio executive in the nation. He put together Jim Scott in the morning. It was he and Alan Gardner at middays, but Randy got too busy. Brought in Mike McConnell. And then Mike handed it off to Gary Burbank, the most fabulous musical radio talent that I'd ever met, ever been around. Then Bob Trumpy, Chris Collinsworth, and Andy Furman. And then it was me and the Bozo. And I worked among giants. Several times, I came up with an idea of killing off the Bozo. And at one point, it became unbelievable, so I set it up this way. Bozo was going to be gone for 2 weeks on a cruise in the Mediterranean. And those are the days, late 80s, early 90s, where no cell phones, couldn't reach him. So I said, this is perfect. So I got a hold of Dave Yiddy Armbruster's wife, Denise, and I said, look, I'm going to call you like at 10 to 12, just before I think Sean Compton was going to sit in for the Bozo, and let's kill him off the right way. So she had a girlfriend of hers at her home, and I called at 10 to 12 live on the air, and she answers the phone, Christ Hospital, may I help you? And I said, yes, ma'am. I heard that Dale Sommers, the Truckin Bozo, is in cardiac unit, and that he's in terrible condition. Could you transfer me to cardiac care? And she said, absolutely. Another woman answered the phone, cardiac unit, and I said, I just received information that the Truckin Bozo is there at Christ Hospital in the cardiac unit. What is his condition? There was a moment of silence, and she said, the Bozo is dead. And I said, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Does the family know? And she said, no, we haven't told anyone yet. He just flatlined just a minute ago. And I said, oh my God, this is awful. So what I did was, you know, express some grievances. And whenever I killed off the Bozo, he loved it. He said, keep that going. So for the next 2 weeks, there were signs up in the truck stops, long live the Bozo. I got a letter and photo. A shop in near Kansas City said, the Bozo is dead, long live the Bozo. Goes on and on for 2 weeks. And so when he comes back, I had set it up by saying, look, he had taped ahead of time 2 or 3 weeks of shows. And so he couldn't convince anyone that he was alive. A little bit later, practically every night he'd come with me at 10 to 12. He'd do the last 10 minutes of my show. I did the first 5 or 10 of his. The insults were flying back and forth. We made some silly bet that I made sure that I lost. So the deal was I had to go to a truck stop in northern Kentucky and pour coffee for all the truckers all night long if I lost a bet. And I lost a bet. And so I drive over to I think it was Dry Ridge or somewhere in northern Kentucky. It was a huge truck stop, the Flying something or other. I'm not sure what it was. And so I started pouring coffee like at 12:30. At 1 o'clock, Kentucky State Police show up with 3 or 4 police cars, and their blue lights are on. They walk into the facility, and I'm there pouring coffee. The truckers are packed. It's going crazy. They're insulting me. I'm insulting them. We had a great time. And they said, look, are you Bill Cunningham? I said, yes, I'm Bill. He said, this is ending now. And I said, well, I'm pouring coffee. I'm paying for all this coffee, allegedly. He said, no, you don't understand. It's ending now. So I said, well, sir, why is it ending? He said, we got 20 miles of trucks south of 75. We got 20 miles of trucks coming north. He said, it is complete fracas, and we can't do this any longer. So I called the Bozo. I said, Bozo, I'm here with the Kentucky State Police. Please welcome Sergeant Merritt to the show, John Merritt. He gets on the phone, and he's on live saying, we want to announce now that the promotion is over. Cunningham is pouring no more free coffee for all the truckers. It is done. I tried to pull out of there. It took me an hour and a half to go from Dry Ridge to Cincinnati because of the impact of the Bozo. The Bozo. He spoke to lonely truckers who were deadheading from Minnesota to Florida. He spoke to third-shift graveyard workers needing an entertainment pickup. A single mom getting ready for a tough day would listen to the Bozo. Early risers often would begin their day with Truckin Bozo and continue it with Jim Scott. And simply those incapable of receiving adequate sleep, like my mother, would listen to Bozo often all night long. And Mom would call me the next morning and said, Billy, did you hear what the Bozo said about you at 3 o'clock in the morning? I said, Mom, don't pay attention to the radio. It's the theater of the absurd. It's the theater. He called you a shyster. He said you were a lousy lawyer. He said you were terrible. And I said, Mama, don't pay attention to the Bozo. No one else does either. I said, ignore it. But if you would ask him, the greatest job he ever had, and the greatest job I've ever had, is working with him on 700 WLW. Over the last 2 weeks, I found myself thinking, you know, I should have spent more time with you, buddy. And I wish I had. And I think it's a lesson for each of us to know that you have to hold those near to you closer, care about them a little bit more, and love them a bit more dearly. In the last 2 weeks, I found myself listening to more country music. And you may not know, but I'm not much of a country music fan. But nonetheless, I came up here this morning about 10:30, quarter to 11, and I was listening to Sirius XM. I think it was 49, but I might be wrong. And they were playing some old country songs. And I sat in the parking lot for an extra 5 or 10 minutes, got here early. And just as I was exiting my car this morning, a song came on. And I shut the door and I got back in. This was the song.
Well, I pulled out of Pittsburgh, rolling down that eastern seaboard. I got my diesel wound up and she's a-running like I never before. There's a speed zone ahead, well, all right. I don't see a cop in sight. 6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight.
Sharon, you spent 6 days on the road, the Truckin Bozo. For the pain that you're feeling, you must understand he's in a better place now. His 6 days on the road are done. A few years will go by, you'll be with him again. He's run the course, and he's home. His 6 days on the road are now done.